What's up, party people? We're Morbid Curiosities, your favorite horror movie podcast, bringing you another episode. I'm one of your hosts, Nicholas Ewers, and with me is the lightweight champion of the world, the morbid mistress of mayhem herself.
Mercedes Martinez. What's up, everybody? Thanks for joining us again. And I love how I love how we always struggle to start it off, but then it always just works. We end up swinging it, and it comes out pretty cool.
Yeah, we get our groove back, definitely. Some starts are a bit more shaky than others, but we eventually figure out how to get there. So if you're a first-time listener and this is a rough start, we don't know how the next couple minutes are going to go, bear with us. Just we'll get you to some good meaty shit.
Wait, you think this one was a rough start? I didn't think that.
No, but I mean, we got like a couple minutes to really fuck this thing up, I think. Yeah.
Probably. It'll happen. It'll probably be my fault.
We both contribute to the downfall of this podcast, I think.
But it's their favorite horror movie podcast, so we're at least bringing something to the table here.
Yeah, we say it at the beginning, and therefore it's the law of the podcast. If you're listening, you abide by that law then. We're sorry if you're here now, but we're your favorite, and that's just how it is.
I mean, you said it all. There's nothing else I can snowball off of that. Let's just jump right into what we're covering today. Take us away, Nick.
Yeah, we're covering Scream 2020 or Scream 5. I've been calling it Scream 5. I've been typing Scream 5 into every search bar when I'm talking about this movie. It feels too much to put in Scream parentheses 2020 all the time. That's probably what our episode's going to be titled because that's the official name of the movie. But this is the 5th installment in the Scream franchise. It's new to me. I had never seen this before. I was the least familiar with this movie going into it compared to any of the other ones. Mercedes, you being the resident Scream fan, the resident shrieker, whatever they would want to call it. Scream 4, they call that sequel like a shriekwell, so shriek is very appropriate. But
oh yeah,
you're the resident Scream fan on the podcast. Do you want to give us your initial thoughts on this movie?
Yeah, so I was very hesitant when this movie came out just because I did not like how Scream 4 was wrapped up, and even with Scream 4, I didn't think we needed a Scream 4, so it was like, why are we getting a Scream 5 now? What more can they do? But then I found out Jenna Ortega was in it, so that's a horse of a different color, obviously, and that alone got me hyped up. And then knowing that, the legacy characters, Sidney Prescott, Dewey, and then Gail were all going to be in there too, I was a little excited for. So yeah, I actually was really shocked on how much I loved this film when I first watched it. So many emotions hit me throughout the entire film, like nostalgia, annoyance, fucking despair at one point. But yeah, so being able to rewatch it now, so fucking fun. Like, this is one of my favorites within the Scream franchise. So I was really happy. And then I was so happy that you realized you accidentally put this film on when you were trying to watch Scream 4 and you cut it off right away, because I was like, no, don't ruin it for yourself. So yeah, what did you think of it?
So going into this one, I was a little bit apprehensive. I had really liked what Scream 4 did. I really enjoyed what it did with legacy characters. And so I was kind of thinking, like, the franchise already did the legacy thing. For me, at least, it was a big success. You guys can listen back to that episode. Scream 4 is probably my favorite in the franchise. We'll get there when we get to the rankings to really make it official. Yeah, I didn't know if a Scream 5 was entirely necessary. I had heard mostly positive reception about this movie based off of things you've told me and things other friends have told me. The Letterboxd reviews are mostly positive on this one. But I didn't know if it would justify its own existence. I didn't know how I would feel about it. And as I usually do for the podcast, I've watched this movie twice. The first time I watched it, I was kind of mixed on it. The second time I watched it, I got a bit more into the groove. Like I've said before, these movies always reward a rewatch. I think this one really is so effective on a rewatch when you know the reveal of who the killer or killers are in this one. Yeah, I gotta say, I mean, there's not a bad movie in this franchise. I've got mixed feelings on some things this movie's doing, but this movie's like pretty awesome. I gave it a 4 out of 5 on Letterboxd. This is just a franchise where the formula, if you want to, and I don't use the word formula, I'm not calling it formulaic in a like derogatory way, but the formula of these movies works. I wrote my review for this movie. It must be pretty hard to make a fucking bad Scream movie because it's just got a formula that works, and if they wait enough time in between sequels, there should always be something for the movies to comment on in order to justify its own existence. And I've plot issues with this movie a little bit, like kind of some of the things it's doing didn't fully work for me, but all in all, I'm mostly positive on this one.
All right. So, spoilers ahead, guys, for Scream 5. Hopefully, everyone's watched it at this point, just because it's such a cool film to get into. Start us off.
Basically, the movie opens up with Jenna Ortega, very similar to the Drew Barrymore scene. And Mercedes, I think, said it already, but spoilers ahead. Jenna Ortega she's texting her friend Amber, played by Mikey Madsen, actually. Oscar winning Mikey Madsen. That's pretty cool. I had no idea she was in this movie. But so she's texting her friend Amber, and she receives a call from, a Ghostface sounding person. And eventually the conversation starts to get a little dark. He asks her the "What's your favorite scary movie" line, and from things really start to ramp up. Ghostface is basically like, answer the phone or I'm going to kill Amber. He sends her a video. That's where you really see that it's Mikey Madsen. I really enjoyed that. We'll get to the cast later, but I thought the cast in this movie was wonderful from top to bottom. But so then eventually Ghostface comes in. Does he break in or is he already in the house?
Like, after he's fucking with Jenna Ortega when she's trying to turn on like the lock for the house, he calls again and was like, all right, one more question. Do you think I had enough time to make it inside the house before you locked the doors again? And then he just pops up from behind her.
So that's where we could really, I guess, kick this thing off. That lock sequence I thought was really fun, really cool. Ghostface, yeah, does eventually make it in the house and really starts to go at Jenna Ortega. I gotta say, I thought her performance in this was really good. And I actually got to listen to the Scream 5 commentary, not all of it. Guys, if you get a chance to listen to that, it's a great commentary, really insightful. Everybody involved, it's all the writers, both directors, a couple of the producers. It's a very awesome commentary. But they really praised Jenna Ortega, all the work that she put into this. And they said, like, every take was perfect from her. So I really got an appreciation for her through listening to the commentary because I've watched a couple bad Jenna Ortega movies lately. And I was like, maybe she's just picking bad projects. And that really reinforced for me, like, okay, she is a very good and capable actor. And fun fact, she was 17 throughout shooting most of this scene. And then the parts where she's being attacked in the kitchen specifically, they had to reshoot that months later. And she had turned 18 at that point. So when you're watching that opening scene, she's 17 in part of it and 18 in part of it. But yeah, what are your thoughts on Jenna Ortega's performance in this whole intro?
I love that fact, by the way. I absolutely adore Jenna Ortega. Just her whole performance in here is just like dropping because you see like she's just putting her all into it. And you with some characters in here, once we get into them more, you see how or you hear how scripted everything is when they talk. Even certain things that she says, it sounds a little strange, but it comes out smoothly. And like how she's talking about the movie the Babadook, Duck, Duck, whatever. When she's talking about that
Baba
movie,
do do do.
yeah, that's what that's it. When she's talking about that, she refers to it as elevated horror. Okay, no one's really gonna describe it like that just in a casual conversation, but the way she just like lets it flow, it goes well with, the conversation. Other characters in here, when they're going hard on something to try to, prove a fact, it's very forced. And it's not really against them as actors themselves. It's just like the script they were given. So I can't really fault them for that. But anyway, back to Jenna. Everything she's in, I do like a lot. I sadly wasn't a fan of Beetlejuice, but nothing against her. I just feel
Oh,
like that
we can
movie.
relate on
Yeah.
that.
Okay, cool. Yeah, because that movie I was so hyped for, even though, again, it was a movie that didn't, Beetlejuice was a movie that did not need a sequel. But the fact that we were getting it, of course, everyone's excited for it. And then when we got it, it was such a bop. Like, I was confused. I was leaving angry.
I thought Beetlejuice was one of the worst movies to come out last year. Oh man, it was such a blatant cash grab. Tim Burton's heart was not in it. It was a disaster is what I would call that.
Yeah, and it was funny too. Just a quick side note. I was listening to the soundtrack of Beetlejuice the week of when me and my husband were going to go see the second one.
The Danny Elfman score?
Yeah, and it was funny because I guess it was just playing everything from the movies because all of a sudden, quick spoiler for this if you guys haven't seen it, I heard a song from Carrie playing and I'm like, what the hell? I've never even listened to the soundtrack from Carrie, so why would this be like popping up on my Spotify? But then when we watched it, that song played towards the end, which made absolutely no fucking sense to be in the film itself. So I was really thrown off, but that explained that whole thing. But yeah, Beetlejuice, it could have been better. They have good characters in there. The cast was cool as fuck, but it really we can live in a world without that movie.
Yeah. But yeah, so Jenna Ortega, actually I saw her in a movie this year called Hurry Up Tomorrow. It's starring The Weeknd. It was actually directed by a guy who I really like, Trey Edward Schultz. And my God, I don't know if Jenna Ortega, like, I kind of got to give her a little bit of credit for that performance, but I watch it, I'm like, what the fuck is happening in this? And it's very weird. I would be very curious to see where you landed on the side of Jenna Ortega's performance, because all the reviews I read were just about The Weeknd, and I was like, I want to hear what people feel about Ortega and Barry Keoghan, who's kind of blowing her out of the water. But so I had that in my mind going in here, like, oh man, she was really rough in Hurry Up Tomorrow. And X is the only other movie I think I'd seen her in where I was really uh digging her performance.
I still need to watch that movie X. I haven't heard of that other one that you had mentioned, but yeah, I liked seeing her, and she had like a brief performance in Jane the Virgin. And then also when she was in You, I thought she was very
Yeah.
witty.
I
And
figured that's why they cast her was off of You.
right, yeah, so I love her performance in here. So I am curious to check out that movie that you had just mentioned. I can't remember the title for some reason.
It's Hurry Up Tomorrow.
Okay.
Yeah, just like the movie The Weeknd is in. This is really Jenna Ortega's like big break, I think, as a movie actress. She was in Iron Man 3 before this. She plays the vice president's daughter. I remember watching that movie a couple years ago around Christmas time and seeing her, and I'm like, is that a little Jenna Ortega? Because that was in like 2013, 9 years before this movie comes out. So like it, she's been acting for a while, a lot of TV stuff, but this is really her first big break as a movie actress, and she delivers, I gotta say.
I'm just so hyped for Wednesday, for the new season of Wednesday to come out. Yeah, I give Jenna Ortega a lot of praise in here. And just with the initial, it wasn't a kill scene because she does survive, but her initial scene, oh my god, that was hard to watch just because that kill scene, it was so fucking vicious. Like Ghostface, he's like fucking her up and then he just steps on her fucking like leg or her ankle,
Yeah.
whatever.
Her
Oh,
baby bird leg just shatters it, breaks it like a
exactly.
twig.
Exactly. So I was like, holy shit, that alone, like, oh my god, that was rough. So you're already like super tense just seeing her trying to lock the doors and then seeing someone's fucking with the whole system. And then now this fucker's inside and then he's just like being so ruthless with her. Oh my god. And then you just get that anticipation because you hear the sirens of the police coming, you see the red and blue lights, and then it's like going in slow motion at that point where she's trying to make it to the door, but then like he let or Ghostface like puts her on her back and then is stabbing her, like trying to do like the iconic like stab right there, and then it goes to the title scene. That was rough to watch, and I'm like, fuck, did she die? Like, are we gonna see her more? Like, what happened? That was such a fucking top notch intro scene. I loved her performance.
Yeah, I had a feeling they were going to keep her alive. The writers were actually talking about, so when they got the job for to write this movie, the first thing they did was write down everything that they wanted out of this movie. And they said 90% of it all lined up exactly. And one of the things that was on that list was the person at the beginning survives. And I was like, I like how they do keep finding a different way to do something different with the intro every time. I have no idea what the next one is going to be, how they do it any differently, but the other one was Dewey getting killed off. That was another one that was on their list. There were a few others I can't remember,
We're
but
not there yet. It's too soon.
we had we had to talk about it eventually.
It's too soon.
We can hop all around, but if you want to hold off really getting into the nitty gritty of Dewey, we can go into like the new cast and everything. Getting introduced to Melissa Barrera.
Yeah, let's talk about them first and then go back to the legacy ones.
Yeah, so Melissa Barrera is her name is Tara, I think, or is that Jenna Ortega? Jenna Ortega is
That's Jenna
Tara.
Ortega.
Marissa,
Melissa Sam.
yeah, so Sam and Richie, so Melissa Barrera is Sam, which is Tara's older sister, and Richie is Sam's boyfriend. So they basically get the news of everything that happened to Jenna Ortega, and they're like, okay, we gotta get on over to Woodsboro, really figure out what's happening. I didn't know Jack Quaid was going to be in this thing. Are you familiar with him as an actor? Had you seen him in much of anything?
I really didn't. When I saw him, I knew he looked familiar, but I didn't know who he was. So then once I found out his name, I was like, no shit. Okay, that makes so much sense as to why he looks familiar. But I haven't seen him in anything else. And if I have, I just can't remember.
Yeah, I was introduced to him in The Boys. He's been a boy for a while over on Amazon Prime. And then yeah, I had no idea he was going to be in this. Earlier this year he was in a movie that I think you would actually really enjoy, called Companion. He's great in that. I haven't seen a bad Jack Quaid yet. But so I was delighted to see him, and Melissa Barrera, I Haven't actually seen many of her movies, but I'm a fan of her. It was nice to see her. I actually got to meet her in person last year. She was in this movie called Your Monster, and it played at the Chicago Sundance, and I got to meet her and the lead actor in that movie. And she was very nice, very like a average person, very kind, seemed appreciative of everyone there. It was very cool to meet her. But so right away I felt like I was in good hands with this one.
We see a few new characters, Melissa Barrera and, well, Sam and her boyfriend Richie. They go to the hospital. Well, first you are introduced to the new friend group at the school. So we have Amber, we have Chad Meeks and his sister, fucking Mindy Meeks. Oh, Meeks Martin, sorry. You have, what's his name? Wes Hicks. I love all the little cameos they have in here, like voiceovers and then the names too, like Wes Hicks. He's Deputy Hicks's son, who's now the sheriff, but his name obviously
Yeah.
named after Wes Craven, who unfortunately passed
Thanks
away.
for not spoiling that Hicks died in the last movie. I had no idea she was coming back, actually. And I
Yeah.
gotta say, I love her relationship with her son. We'll get to that a little later, but it was a delight to have them back.
No, there was just a few things that you were saying in the last episode, and I was like, well, he's gonna be happy with this part. Oh, I know he's gonna like this, and you know, fuck, there's something that I know he's not gonna like. So yeah, I'm trying to be good and not jump the gun. I've learned my lesson from our early days of being little morbid heads.
I felt like it would have been a very easy spoiler to let slip. But also one like little thing too. I didn't catch this on either of my viewings. I've just heard people talk about it, but Kirby's alive too.
Yeah, they show a part where Richie, he's doing his little research, watching videos on YouTube. He's also trying to watch Stab. It was pretty cool in there because I kind of want to just look or like share my notes from that too. So he's watching this video called Film Fails, but it's actually with the two hosts of Dead Meat. So you got James A. Janice and his wife Chelsea. So, they're just acting like super douchey and they're talking about Stab. But then on the side where you see all the suggested videos, you see one with Kirby and then I think one where they're like, oh, is Stu still alive or something? So yeah, her being in there, like I never noticed that until I was watching like reviews on the movie. So yeah, she is still alive. But like one of the voiceovers for the beginning when you do hear or you do see the new cast here, the principal speaking on the intercom talking about like everything going on, that's actually Drew Barrymore herself, which I was so delighted to hear. I was like, oh my god, she made like a little semi appearance in here. And when Richie is watching all the videos right now, you hear like someone say like, that's fucking sick, or no, that's fucking lit or whatever, and that's actually Matthew Lillard saying that when you are watching like the film fails and you have Ghostface like with a fucking like flamethrower or whatever the hell he had. So yeah, there's a lot of voiceovers, but yeah, we can wait for the big one until the end.
I kind of want to bring up the first thing that rubbed me the wrong way a little bit. Having two characters related to Randy. I was just kind of in this like mindset where I'm like, I know what they're doing here, but can I forgive it? Like they're commenting on that everybody's related to everybody, but I still don't like how every movie like it's just people who are related to each other and how deep it goes into that. And that movie does this a couple of times, but it I didn't really like that aspect of it. I didn't like the like the film buff being directly related to Richie, and I can get into the film buff as a whole uh in a sec, but I mean Did those things rub you the wrong way in the way that they rubbed me?
Yeah, I really was not a fan of Mindy Meeks in here. Like Chad Meeks, he kind of plays like more of like a stronger presence in the next film that we cover, but for
Okay, that's good.
Mindy,
I like
yeah,
Chad.
yeah,
And he's in
him
Hard
I don't
Eyes
mind.
too. Have you
I
seen
have not seen that still. I saw that movie. It was like Climb, where these 2 girls climb up this one
Fall?
tower. Fall, yeah. That one I saw and I was like, "Wow, what a douchebag in here. I'm happy he dies in this one." Or wait, no, he doesn't die in this one.
Spoilers
He
for
died in
Fall.
that.
Oh,
Yeah, sorry, my bad. But yeah, I just like fucking meshed these up. He doesn't die in here though.
they
Um,
give you the fake out though. They make you
yeah.
think he does initially.
Yeah, exactly. That's another thing that bothers me in here, but I'll jump to that in a second. But yeah, when I was talking about like how some of the dialogue in here is like it just sounds very forced, or like her monologue, Mindy, when she's explaining all the rules of like sequels, requels, whatever, to everyone when they're trying to figure out okay who the killer could be, that sounded so unnatural to me, and it went on for so long that it started to bother me. It's like, I get why you're trying to justify every single part here, but you could have summed this up so quickly that it, like, I don't know, we could have saved like a solid 5 minutes from that scene. But yeah, that part I did not vibe with at all.
I gotta agree with you. Maybe not for the same reasons. I didn't vibe with Mindy's character or what she was really saying in that moment much at all either. The two parts that you have criticized in the writing, I've noticed, are the parts where they're injecting film bro, like film douche type of stuff in there. Like when Jenna Ortega says, that's elevated horror. Elevated horror is so much better. Like that attitude. Oh my god, it's like that kind of bothers me. It's like, okay, yeah, you can like fucking Midsummer and Maniac Cop at the same time. It's
Mhm.
the superiority of like horror fans that exists nowadays. It seemed like, I don't know if they rubbed you the wrong way in that way, but that kind of, I don't really like that attitude when talking about movies. So those are the reasons why like that rubbed me the wrong way.
It's
The
kinda
like
like
it,
metalheads too when,
condescending.
yeah, and I forgot what this one comedian's name is, but I think I've sent you some of these videos where he's talking about, like, there was one where he was doing a show, he's like, "Oh, I like that everyone's wearing, like, a heavy metal, band T-shirt. You know, we all get to, say, like, non-verbally say, this is my favorite band. I listen to them a lot." And then it's like everyone else can look and find something to judge you on. Like, oh, well, I listen to heavier stuff, or that band is weak. And I know me and you have had like little fun debates here about like stuff that we listen to, but yeah, it's like you can like a variety of genres or even movies from one single genre and it be okay. It's not a bad thing.
I think a good metal equivalent that I've experienced that with is, and this has happened to me a couple times with two separate genres, where I'll meet someone and I'll talk to them, and bands that I would consider like heavy or interesting or technical would be like Modern Job for a Cowboy, Beyond Creation, certain eras of Cannibal Corpse, and like people will be into, there will be, I'll get judgment from people who are like into the most obscure death metal out there, or they're into the most garbage black metal that's in existence, where it sounds like they recorded their EP with one microphone in a garage. And you get judgment from that. And it's like, do you not realize like you're into some like real shit music? Like you're judging me for this? And then it's like you think you're so cool because you listen to the most obscure stuff. Or then there'll be people who are into like hardcore music or like slam, and they have a real weird superiority, I'm better than you kind of thing. And not all people. I have a lot of friends that are in like hardcore slam bands that are like cool people with diverse taste in music. But a lot of the attitude you get, mostly from the people going to the shows, is like, no, this is the best music ever. If like your metal shit is fucking lame. And it's so weird because it's like, guys, like a lot of these slam bands kind of suck. They need to start justifying their own existence by writing interesting music. Sorry for that
Yeah.
rant.
No, no, like that was hitting home because I'm like, they're again, we hung out with like similar crowds back in the day. So I get where you're coming from. Like some people that I hung out with or dated in the past, they would talk so much shit about the music that I listened to or music that other people were listening to who would go to the local shows. And I'm just like, okay, well, that's their preference. You don't have to listen to it. So why is it such a big thing? Just one person in
Yeah, it makes me
particular.
feel like the message of the music is getting lost.
Exactly. Like one person in particular would just talk so much shit and just like make fun of people and just criticize them so much. And it's just like, can you shut up? Like, we're all trying to come here to see our local bands play, and if they have a t-shirt of a band that you don't like or of a band that they don't like, who gives a fuck? Like, go back into your corner. Like, shit, it really would lose the message of why we're all there. I agree on that. So sorry, another side tangent.
No, I mean, I feel like this is kind of on topic for what this movie is talking about. We're equating it to music. Like the Mindy character in particular, she like in order to go back to Scream, she does kind of embody the type of person that we're talking about. There's a line in the movie that kind of rubbed me the wrong way, and I was like, "Oh, I don't know if I'm going to sit well with this if this movie's being written and directed from this perspective." So, Mindy is talking about the Stab sequels, and she's like, "Stab 8, the one directed by the Knives Out guy." Mercedes, are you familiar with any of that? What they're referencing?
It was a big family or
Well,
something, and I can't remember it.
Well, the movie itself isn't important. The director of the
Oh,
movie is important.
yeah, I don't know
So,
about that.
are you familiar with the director at all, or anything he's done? Any?
No.
Okay, so Mindy is going on this big thing about how Stab 8 sucks, and she says someone is like, "Oh, that's the one that the Knives Out director made." So they're talking about Rian Johnson. He directed Knives Out. Before he did Knives Out, which Rian Johnson, beloved director by film fans, everything he's made except for one movie all pretty much gets like solid reception. And this other movie that I'm about to mention, still very popular, but there's a toxic bit of fans in the world that will tell you that this movie is bad. But so Ryan Johnson directed Star Wars The Last Jedi. Now that movie is one where it comes out after their big legacy sequel. Like a lot of what this movie's referencing is very tied to Star Wars, oddly enough. Well, not oddly enough. Star Wars set the template for this legacy sequel thing, even though no one gives Scream 4 credit for doing it first. But so Star Wars came out, had their big legacy sequel movie with The Force Awakens. Ryan Johnson did his sequel, The Last Jedi, and really challenged what it means to be a Star Wars fan and to engage with these movies in a really interesting way. He did things with the characters that upset people that I found were very appropriate and interesting directions to take the characters. Now, the movie's got good reviews all around on anywhere you'll look, but there's a very toxic, loud, vocal minority on the internet. They call themselves the Fandom Menace, and they're just like the people that will go send death threats to people until they're off of Twitter. Like, really, it's a group of people that are fueled by misogyny and racism. And I'm going to end this rant soon. But so Mindy is basically the character. She is embodying a really, to me, a very negative type of fandom. And I was really bothered by her character at first because no one really seemed to challenge what she was saying directly in the movie. And I was like, so does this movie agree with the points that she's making? Is it kind of aligning itself with like some pretty bad viewpoints on movies? And I found that not to be the case because of other decisions the movie makes that we'll get into later.
Yeah, her character, she's a good actress. I like her to an extent in Yellow Jackets, but in here I don't like what she's given to bring to the screen. But yeah, so you have all of the new characters. Then we're like slowly, well, at this point we have the legacy characters back. So, Sam and Richie, they did go to Dewey's little trailer to try to talk to him to get help. He was at their little meeting there too. And you just see how Dewey just basically let himself go. He's no longer the sheriff. He's drinking with his coffee, but he's still watching, Gail on TV. So it's like, all right, they're not together, but clearly they miss each other. Well, he misses her. I don't know how she feels. So, you're already in like that heartbroken moment for him because you see he has a picture of him and Gail next to his urn of Tatum, and it's just like, wow, just entering that trailer just brought out so much sadness. So it was cool to see him kind of pull himself together to go to that little meeting to try to help out the new characters who are in this whole situation with Ghostface. So I was happy that they brought him back. I hated like the little conversation that he had with Sidney because he calls her, he warns her. We find out, like you had mentioned, that Sidney ended up with Mark Kincaid, our favorite Patrick
Yeah, we
Dempsey.
were texting about that. I didn't love that. I was like, it kind of came out of nowhere for me.
Why?
I guess it just, I didn't love it at first.
I don't know. I liked it just because I was like, okay, I think I liked it more so because Sydney was going to be with someone who was good for her, but they don't show him.
Feels like
He's not
she's
in
settled.
here. Yeah. Wait, what? Settled? You like settled for Patrick Dempsey? I thought we were both Team Dempsey over here.
I'm Team Dempsey, but it's like, you're like just out of college or whatever. It's like, date around. Don't settle for the first hero in your life.
I mean, she doesn't have the best track record with guys. She dated a serial killer, then got the one good guy that she was with killed. So she probably wasn't like in the mood to date around. And
Yeah, good point.
so, yeah, she felt safe.
Dewey's like whole situation in this movie, first time around, didn't really like it. Second time around, after watching the whole thing, I kind of grew to accept it a little bit. I didn't like him and Gail being split apart initially. It rubbed me the wrong way. But this is kind of where, like on rewatch, this is kind of where I started to piece together, like, oh, this movie is more so on the side of The Last Jedi. And it felt like the production kind of reflected that a little bit. So they approached David Arquette and they told him, you're gonna die in this one. They were very upfront with him, and at first he was against it. He was against Dewey's living situation. him being off the force and being alone in a trailer. He was like, Dewey wouldn't do this, which is the same like conversation that Mark Hamill had with the director Rian Johnson when it came to how to handle Luke Skywalker in The Last Jedi, and they disagreed. And I would argue they got a more interesting performance, and some of the most interesting stuff does come from when a director and an actor disagree on takes for characters. Like, a lot of the times I would say the director ends up being right. And I think in this case they were kind of right. They needed to like put Dewey in a more approachable position, give him a reason to really want to get back into this and give it another shot. I felt like the movie did a good job of justifying it. And David Arquette eventually came around to it and was like, you know what? I'm on board for this take, and if we're gonna do it, let's really fucking do this thing. And so that's another way this movie kind of like reflects Star Wars.
Okay, so since you keep jumping back to that, we might as well rip the band-aid off and, go into the scene with, Dewey's final moments. The first time I watched that, I fucking was in tears. I was so sad and pissed off because, yeah, they do a lot of fake out deaths, and Dewey is stabbed in every fucking film. So I'm like, he's gonna make it. He's gonna be okay. He's Dewey. He pulls through. But no, you see fucking he's we're at the hospital now, guys. Sorry, we're jumping around a lot.
They've seen it. This is their favorite movie. They get it.
Yeah, exactly. Dewey realized he didn't shoot Ghostface in the head, so he was gonna go back to just shoot him in the head. And there was that little moment right there too where him and Sam Carpenter they were talking, and Sam was just like, who gives a fuck? And he's like, I do. You have to shoot him in the head, I do. And then the elevator door closes. So he walks back. He's getting ready to shoot Ghostface, but then fucking Gail comes and ruins it because she calls him and he gets distracted. He looks at his phone, and that was the moment where the killer striked and then fucking stabbed him like in the stomach, in the back. And then, oh my God, Roger L. Jackson's voice gives me chills every time I hear it, because whenever he turns it on, it is so difficult to just sit through, because you hear him saying, like, it's an honor. And then, he kills Dewey, and then I'm like, he's not dead. He's not dead. And then they focus in on his face. I'm like, oh my God, he is dead. And
Oh,
I started crying.
yeah. Of course. He's disemboweled and shit. Like, I don't know about you, but when I watch these movies a second time, I I don't know if it's me, but I feel like I might be projecting the voices of the actors onto Ghostface, because when Ghostface says it's an honor, I imagined Amber saying that to Dewey right then and there. I felt like there's even points where Ghostface is talking and I'm like, that sounds like how Jack Quaid kind of talks. Spoilers for who the killers are. We didn't get there yet, but we've been tipped. I'm surprised we haven't spoiled it yet, actually. But
I know.
I I liked things about Dewey's exit, and I disliked some things about Dewey's exit. I like that when Sam is like, "Who gives a fuck?" He's like, "I do," and I'm like, "Yeah, Dewey would give a fuck." I said it on, I think, the last episode, maybe it was the one before, that he always puts himself in front of the danger for other people. That's why I believed like Dewey would come back when he's in this position. I believed he would come back to Woodsboro. He doesn't seem like a guy who would be cut out for New York, and I believe Gale would leave Woodsboro. But one thing I didn't buy in this scene was the that Dewey goes out by a phone call. It's like he's not fucking Doofy or whatever from Scary Movie. Why can't he have like a heroic moment? And I do feel like Dewey Dewey's story arc does kind of reflect on David Arquette. Actually, like things he had gone through in his life. He hit a lot of low periods. But I felt like he would go out like a hero. David Arquette was like a hardcore wrestler. Have him like fucking suplex Ghostface or something before he goes out. You know, I didn't love that it was a phone call from Gail.
Yeah, I didn't either because I'm reading way too much into this, but it's kind of just like, their relationship was doomed from the start essentially. They were trying so hard to, make it work, be together. Clearly it didn't. And then because she called him for whatever fucking reason, he ends up getting killed. I did not like that either. So just the way it all ended up. I understand why they took him out, but it did not need to be that way. It was so tragic.
Yeah, they've done the Dewey fake out so often they had to really show you this guy is dead. They had to hammer it home. He's dead and he's not coming back. The screenwriters said their reasoning behind, not their full reasoning behind killing Dewey, but what killing Dewey allows them to do is bring Sidney back to Woodsboro. There was no believable way that they think Sidney would return to Woodsboro unless it was because circumstances were high like that, you know, high enough like one of your beloved friends just got murdered.
True, because I think if it was the other way around, if Gail was the one that was killed, she wouldn't have come back.
Yeah, and this movie kind of portrays it like Sidney and Gail had a like fully bad relationship, but I felt like they left things off in Scream 4 pretty well. I I don't know, but I was on the fence with Sydney in the last episode. Her coming back, she won me over again with this movie. I uh I felt like she was a really really believable and grounded final girl. One of the probably the best return of a final girl. I think she's better than the return of Jamie Lee Curtis in Halloween.
Yeah, definitely. I think she is a a crowd favorite of a final girl. Definitely one of my favorites. And there were some things in here that, she said that I didn't like because, again, it kind of just felt forced. Again, it's not her. But I love the fact that she did come back. And, it seems like her relationship with Gail was never fully forgiven. Okay, we squashed all the bad beef between us, but we're not friends necessarily. We're just, acquaintances. But she did go there because her friend was just murdered, and now she's trying to be there for Gail, and then wants to help out with these legacy characters. But she does say, I have kids, so I'm not gonna rest until this killer's on the ground. I don't know. I kind of didn't like that line delivery or line in general, but her coming back and her and Gail actually helping with the killing of the two Ghostface in here, it sealed a good deal for me. Like, you can't go wrong with Nev Campbell, honestly.
While we're on the topic of returning cast members, somebody who we haven't actually mentioned yet, Skeet Ulrich comes back.
Oh
This
yeah.
might be the last thing for me to mention when it comes to things that rub me the wrong way. I didn't really love Skeet Ulrich coming back. How did you feel about that?
I was curious because, a lot of like little detail leaks were going on the internet before this movie came out. And when I did find out that he was in it, I was like, wait, so he's not dead? He's alive? But we end up finding out that, he's Sam Carpenter's real dad. Um, and when she found that out, she found out that her mom was unfaithful to her supposed dad. That dad finds out, he leaves, and then Sam Carpenter, that's what led to her just being like a rebellious teenager and then leaving in general. But her little flashbacks, of him as Billy Loomis, and you see him, all bloody with like his white t-shirt and his jeans. It didn't work. Like I didn't like it because it's like, okay, Billy was a murderer and he was just a bad person all around. But in this one, he kind of plays as if he's like Sam's conscious, so to speak, because he little
Yeah,
by little
it's like
is,
redeeming him.
yeah, he's like, let's, do what we got to do to survive, and let's like start like killing off these people before they kill us. And even in the end where she is stabbing Richie to kill him, she kind of like looks in the mirror or something, and she sees like a look of acknowledgement from like Billy Loomis, like, yeah, good job. It's like that
Yeah,
was
atta girl.
unnecessary.
That's my
Yeah.
daughter.
Yeah, exactly. So I wasn't a
Yeah.
fan of that either.
Yeah, it felt really odd. So it's Skeet Ulrich is Billy Loomis in the clothes that he got murdered in. Weird that she's seeing him that way. It's almost like they're using that to kind of help the audience put the dots together a little bit. And they like digitally de-aged him a little bit, smoothed out his face a little bit, because he definitely has like some wrinkles in real life that he didn't have. And it just felt really weird at first. It like took me out of the movie. I spent so much time thinking about what they were doing as opposed to like the movie itself, and it didn't fully work for me. I guess the screenwriters, they were really on the fence about whether or not they wanted to have that in the movie, and Kevin Williamson was actually the guy who convinced them to go for it. He was like, "This part right here doesn't sound like it's from a Scream movie at all. So I think you guys should go for it. Do something that sounds a little different and makes you a little bit nervous to do." And Kevin Williamson himself, he actually originally didn't want to have any involvement with this movie. He talks about how he had a really, really rough time working with the Weinsteins when he had a deal with them at Miramax, and he said there was just too much water under the bridge to do it. And he met with the guys a couple times, and eventually uh, called them and was like, "Can you dedicate this thing to Wes?" And they were like, "Absolutely, we will." And he was like, "All right, I'll give you guys notes on this and help you out wherever I can." And I didn't know he had that involvement at first, but that was really sweet. And we'll get to it at the end. The West stuff I found very touching. I tried to imagine it when I was hearing it get talked about on the commentary. Like, yeah, he was probably thinking about Scream and what a great time he had working with Wes Craven on those things. Like, they worked on all of them together except for three, I want to say. And it was probably like a big bonding experience. They accomplished a lot. They like did a lot of cool and fun shit and put their hearts into Scream. And I was like really happy that at the end of the day, for Kevin Williamson, it did come down to it being about Wes Craven. I'm getting a little emotional talking about it.
I know. While we're on that topic, we should just jump right into the party scene and talk about that final detail there.
Yeah. Well, before we hop into that exactly, let's talk about the Wes Craven character and why they're throwing the party. Not the Wes Craven character, his last name's not Craven, but there's a Wes character played by Dylan Minetti. I don't know how to Dylan Minette. I don't know how to pronounce his name, but I had been familiar with him because of Prisoners and Don't Breathe. I don't know if you've seen either of those movies.
I saw Don't Breathe. That one was pretty good. I didn't bother seeing the second one.
Yeah, I liked Dylan and his whole vibe. He accuses Dewey at one point. Dewey actually accuses Richie in a very spot on way at one point in the movie. I like the accusations when they come flying in these movies. but he's a very, like, cool kid, I thought. Like, I liked the specificity of his hair, his look, and he's Judy Hicks, I think that's her name, her
Mhm.
son. Uh,
Mhm.
and I really enjoyed their relationship together. Like, there's a little detail that I noticed that I kind of loved. She's calling and placing an order for sushi or whatever, extra edamame. She's like, I'm going to go pick up the food. And he's like, okay, he gets the chopsticks, the sriracha. And I'm like, it feels like they do this all the time. Like,
Mhm.
it felt so lived in and charming, and it made the loss of those characters hit very hard. Hicks being murdered in daylight in the fucking streets was one of the most, like, provocative images, I think, in the franchise. I don't think we've gotten broad day murder like that, with that level of brutality. And Wes, um gets like a knife through the side of his neck in a very gross and upsetting and honestly very cool shot. It's both of these deaths I found were very effective. I mean, what were your thoughts on them?
They were painful to watch, honestly, because yeah, you see the mom, she's going to pick up food. Ghostface calls her while she's on the way over, and so she's like, all right, what is he, what is his game right now? But then he's basically like saying, I'm about to kill your son. Kind of think of, the kill scene from Psycho. I like how they did that little plug in right there. But yeah, once she like jets home and she's just killed directly in front of our house, that was just so sad to watch because it's like, damn, she was right there and she just fell right into that trap. And then her son doesn't know anything that happened, and he's getting their plates ready and everything. I love that scene too. I thought that was super cute, but it was very painful for me to watch it because it's like, wow, he's setting all this up and he's about to find out that his mom is dead. But then thankfully he doesn't find that out, but unfortunately he gets killed himself. Those were pretty brutal in my opinion too. The detail they show with the knife just like going through his neck was disgusting. And I don't know, it definitely sucks because it's like majority of the blonde characters in these films are the ones that get killed. Casey Becker, now Sheriff Hicks, and Wes Hicks. So I don't know. It was just sad to watch.
That's a good detail. I wouldn't be surprised if the blonde thing is intentional, but this is how the filmmakers decided that they were going to work in their tribute to Wes. They thought, what would be a better way in a franchise that's meta than to name the character after the director, kill the character, and then have an in movie memorial party for the character where everyone is like cheering to Wes. It's the
Mhm.
movie itself cheering to Wes Craven, and while it's pretty brief, like it Chad hit that character, he calls him a beautiful motherfucker at one point. I thought that was a really nice touch. We were talking about voiceovers earlier. There's a lot of voiceovers in this scene. Matthew Lillard has another voiceover. I didn't catch it in the movie. In the commentary, he says to Amber, he says, "Hey Freeman, nice house," at the party, and then the cheer when they do two Wes. They have voiceovers from Matthew Lillard, Henry Winkler, Wes Craven's widow, and a bunch of other people who were involved with the production.
Yeah, they even had Jamie Kennedy, Hayden Panettiere, Adam Brody, and Drew Barrymore get in this part. So, it was very heartwarming to hear that because, like, yeah, if you're a fan of these films, that was for Wes Craven. So when you're watching it for the first time, you're like, you feel that you're like, you're joining in with them in unison, like, yeah, to Wes. But then once you find out those details that all of these people did like a chime in saying to Wes, it's another moment that's like a tearjerker moment, because it's like all of these people were essentially a family within the Scream franchise, and it wouldn't be a thing unless it was for Wes Craven. So I fucking love that detail so much, and it was a good way to bring it to a party scene.
It was. They had to end at a party. They wanted to get it to the original location of the first Scream movie. So I thought that was like a good way to get it there. You do feel the absence of Wes Craven in this movie, I think. And
You do.
it's not the movie. Yeah, and it's not the movie's fault. It's nothing you can really hold against the movie, but the way he would stage those action sequences, the way he had the camera move in relation to what was happening on set, the way he would frame a lot of these deaths, how propulsive the action would be. It's there was an energy that he brought to these movies, a life. And not saying that this movie doesn't have energy in life, but it doesn't have the Wes Craven energy in life.
Yeah, it still delivers in its own way, and the directors, they did their best with paying their respects and doing this in honor of Wes Craven. Even at the end, when before they do like the credits, they have for Wes at the end of the movie, and then you hear like birds, because Wes Craven was an avid bird watcher. So like they did everything to honor Wes Craven in this film, and it shows, but you can definitely feel the lack of Wes Craven's presence in here.
Yeah, that for Wes at the end, actually, both times I've watched it, it made me cry a little bit. I got pretty choked up. It just, I don't even know why. I've never had like a big attachment to Wes Craven. I don't know. It just hit me. It felt like a loss. He was, I mean, a fantastic director. He's brought some of the most iconic uh, things into horror between Hills Have Eyes, creating Nightmare on Elm Street, creating and basically running the Scream franchise for most of its existence. It's just, it just sucks that he can't be involved with these things anymore.
It's it's kind of crazy too, just because I basically ripped on Mindy Meek's whole monologue when she was talking about all the rules and explaining everything about requels. But there was a little detail in there where she was saying, like, you can't fuck with the original movie, because that's what people grew up on. That's like what made them fall in love with horror, because their parents put it on, it was something for them to bond over. And that resonated with me a lot, because it's like, yeah, a lot of these films that I have grown to love now and that are a big part of my life are because of my mom. She let my siblings watch them, she let me watch them, and then I got to a point where I was always watching them with her, and referencing a lot of movies with her. So it's like when I first watched Scream 5 and that detail came up, I was pretty hooked, but then that scene kept going and going, and then it ended up like being a little too much for me. But I like that they had that in here, and with Wes Craven not being in here, it just kind of hit home for me even more so. Like, damn, he was a big part of my childhood, not really knowing that he was, but like losing him, and then seeing the lack of presence here, it like, I know a lot of fans felt the same way, so it's a little difficult to watch at some points.
And one thing you touched on a little bit when you were mentioning the connection people have to these movies, and like, I watched them with my parents, I grew up on these, they were bonding moments. I do like that at the end of the day this movie is about Yeah, but what if you take that too far? What if you take that love for the thing to a incredibly toxic level? Like, I like that the movie is not saying like loving the movie is a bad thing, but what you do with that love can be a pretty bad thing.
Yeah, because then realistically, people do shit on the new film or just little details about it. Like, one example, and it's a bad example too, but it was just funny when Halloween, what was it, 5 came out, or not when it came out, but me and my mom would be watching all the Halloween films when they were on TV, and when that one would come on, we would just talk so much shit about it because everything was different, and it's like you can't expect us to believe this. So yeah, for them to kind of push the limits here, they made some ballsy moves with this film. Some of them, they were good. Some of them, I wish they didn't happen, but they were necessary. So yeah, they do take some, risks here, but it's necessary because if you're just gonna completely do a whole remake down to every dotted I and crossed T, then, you're just kind of wasting time.
Yeah, you can't bend over So at a certain point, like I feel like it goes against artistic value to try to just appease fans. If you ask me, fans should have no involvement in how movies are made or decisions being made with movies. But also, if you ask me, movies should not be made by committee, and that's a lot of the reason why sequels end up being so bad because it's made by producers and it's not made with an artistic mind. It's just made to meet a release date because the thing before it made enough money to justify wanting to make more money off of it. It, so there, you can see both ends of the argument, but at the end of the day, when you have all of these hands and opinions in the process, kind of takes away from the art of it all. What's it called? Chad has a really fun sequence where he gets attacked by Ghostface where he's looking for Liv. Not sure if we mentioned her. Totally makes me realize that she's not much of a character since she's not really brought up till now. But
Really?
he's trying to find like he shoots her down for sex. She gets mad, walks away. He's like cuz he thinks she might be the killer. And then he ends up as he's going to find her, he gets attacked by Ghostface in a pretty like upsetting scene. I was glad that this character survived. I wanted him to make it out of this situation alive, and he did by the end of it. And then from there, we're back in the party. We have Amber and Mindy have a really interesting interaction in the basement. Like, why'd you come down here alone? All of this stuff. What did you think about that? Did you have an issue with it?
I did. So I I'm sorry. I'm just like ripping on the character of Mindy because this was another part that kind of bothered me because she knows shit's going down, Mindy does, and she has that like fucking, oh, I know this is going to happen type of attitude, and she's just gonna let it happen. Like follows Amber downstairs and was like, okay, well, why are you coming down here by yourself? Like, that's against the rules or whatever the fuck she said. But she just looks like such a fucking know-it-all, and it's like, oh my god, watch this girl be the killer when I first watched it, because then she just kind of pokes at like, well, how do you know I'm not the killer or whatever, or like whatever they say. So that part bothered me, but then she's like, yeah, see, now you're learning. And then they just like go upstairs. And then even towards the end, when like Richie was like, okay, I'll be back, when he was gonna go to the garage or basement, they're
Yeah,
just
the basement.
laughing. Yeah, and he's like, well, do you want to come with me? She's like, no, but you're smart to ask. It's like, with all of this going on, why are you just going to sit here by yourself? Like, clearly you know not to trust anybody, so wouldn't you want to not be alone? I don't know. I didn't like
Yeah.
what they did with her.
Yeah, I don't think Mindy's that likable of a character. And so we're about to get to the Ghostface reveal in a second. Were you able to tell on your first viewing who the killers were? Like, who were your suspicions leading towards?
Honestly, I couldn't tell, like, I wanted to say it was Richie, but because of like the stupid little dorky moments that he was having, like when the sheriff is like, "Oh, where were you during this little altercation?" He's like, "I was watching Stab," and like it was just funny. So it's like, okay, well, he's stupid. He can't be the killer. But then I was kind of thinking it was Amber just because she had like a bitchy attitude majority of the time and then she was constantly accusing everyone. So it's like, all right, what's your deal? But again, I'm always bad at like figuring out who is the killer. So it's like I was kind of suspecting them, but then finding reasons not to suspect them.
This movie does a very good job, much like the first movie, and the fourth one, I'd say, of placing characters who are Ghostface with Ghostface. So, like the hospital scene, Jack Quaid's character is there as, like, they're all fighting Ghostface. So it kind of gets rid of a little bit of accountability from him. He's also not in Woodsboro initially. So you kind of got to think, like, would he have driven to Woodsboro to act out the Jenna Ortega crime? And then Amber also is in the video from the beginning. Someone's recording her. So that kind of lets you off the hook a little bit. Plus, she's with Jenna Ortega at the party. So she's like, I couldn't have been Ghostface right before the actual reveal itself happens. But, like, I kind of guessed it slightly. Jack Quaid gets sliced on the arm, and I was like, that happened to Jill in the last one. I think he might be the killer. And turned out he was, and I was like, okay. And then Mindy, I was just like, or not Mindy, Amber. I, Before this, she was in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, where she's playing one of the Manson children, whatever they're called, and she's absolutely fucking batshit crazy in that movie. And I was like, I bet you cast her as the killer because of that Once Upon a Time in Hollywood performance. I was like, she's gonna lose her fucking shit at the end of this movie, and yeah, I kind of like accidentally pieced it together. You look like you're burning up. Sorry for talking so much. What do you got to say?
No, it's nothing too crazy. I'm just kind of fidgety right now. I did have a point. So, yeah, it was funny because being able to rewatch it for the podcast, you get to see like the little interaction that Amber and Richie have together where it's like, damn, why didn't I pay more close attention to that? Because at one point when they're in the hospital, and I think it's when Sheriff Hicks is questioning all of them, you know, Amber is just accusing Richie, and they're kind of playfully going back and forth, like accusing each other. Um, so it's like, okay, well, both of you are the killer and or killers, and you guys are both trying to just pass the blame on the other person. And then once they get to the party, Sam, Tara, and Richie get there because Tara can't find her inhaler, and she knows that she has one at Amber's house. Amber is like, okay, yeah, we'll get it. But then she just is like, all right, everyone, party's over. And then Richie's
Yeah,
also
that's so
like,
weird.
yeah, and Richie's over there helping, like turning on all the lights and like, yeah, okay, everybody, trying to save
Yeah, Gen
you,
Z
get
here,
out.
Gen Z.
Yeah, like just get
I
out.
liked that.
And yeah, it was weird because it was like, oh wow, they were actually like setting the scene, and it was funny because I think Jamie Kennedy had another voiceover at this part where it's like, somebody's dad is kicking us out or some shit that he said at that part. So yeah,
I heard that line.
so it was, I don't know, those little nods. It's like, all right, how do you miss that they're the killer? But again, I'm very bad at piecing it together.
That is a good point. I didn't really think about the fact that they were the two to get everybody out of the house. On the commentary, actually, I think it's the two directors who are like, they even point out, I don't know why they would need everybody to leave to get an inhaler.
Right. It doesn't make sense.
Yeah,
So
that's a good catch. Everything leading up to their reveal, I think, is really great and really tense. Sidney and Gail show up at a certain point, but I think they show up after Amber's revealed to be the killer. So, how does that happen? They find Chad murdered, I think, and Mindy just gets attacked by Ghostface. Yeah, then they all kind of converge in the living room. Liv is covered in Chad's blood. They're all pointing the blame. And Amber just out of nowhere is like, I forgot what she says. She's like, "'Cause I'm the killer," or whatever, pulls out the gun and just offs Liv right then and there. I was like, yeah, baby, this is where we're fucking cooking. You picked the right actress to be the psycho in this one. Honora herself. I told myself I was going to call her Honora the whole review, but I forgot. But that's what she won the Oscar for, is for playing the character of Honora in the movie Honora earlier this year. But I mean, yeah, good for her. You know, maybe now Rory Culkin, another Scream alumni, should get an Oscar. It just proves that the villains of Scream need Oscars. Give Matthew Lillard an Oscar for something. But
right, shit.
yeah. But so yeah, then shit hits the fan, and I really love Sidney and Gail show up, and Amber's like, "He stabbed me," and they're like, "What do you think about this?" And she's like, "Definitely a trap." And then Amber's like, "Fuck it," and shoots Gail. Gail kind of just like lightly falls on the grass after getting a shot to the kidney. And yeah, Sidney, what do they do? Sidney doesn't fight Mindy. Does she just run off after she shoots Gail?
So she goes in the house and she's looking for them. And like some of the moves that she's doing while she's going in the house kind of resembles Dewey in the first one when he's like going in and trying to, investigate, find out where everyone's at. And then Ghostface calls her and is kind of like,
Yeah.
making his little reveal, like, oh, I'm the other Ghostface. And after a while, she's like, you know what? I'm
She's
bored.
shooting the doors too as she's going by. I'm like, that's smart. I like that more than the bunkered down, my house is a fortress that explodes if Michael Myers gets in here type of thing. I like that she's like, I own a gun and I moved away from Woodsboro. That's my life. And she goes in and she's like, I know the precautions. I'm shooting the doors. And she eventually, I love the hang up. And then she gets Jack Quaid. And it's just like, in the moment you're like, wait, is he the killer? Is he not the killer? And then
Mhm.
Ghostface shows up and he's like, holy shit, it's Ghostface. And oh man, the movie's like firing on all fucking cylinders at this point.
Think about all the fucking PTSD that Sydney's going through because she had to live through that shit in the first Scream. Then in part 3, she was basically seeing Stu's house again when she was on set for Stab 3 Return to Woodsboro. And then now she's back in Stu's house because apparently that's where Amber lives. And it's funny how nobody knew that, like, in the new cast of Friends here, but, yeah, so she's in there and, like, yeah, just I feel bad for her just having to deal with that shit all over again, so I like the little detail when she's like, "I'm bored," and just fucking hangs up, and yeah, so, I was thoroughly enjoying, like, this whole buildup of this scene.
I am curious how Amber joined into their friend group because they say Jack Quaid, his character was like, you know, on message boards for Stab, and that's how him and Amber end up meeting is through the message boards, and he tracks down Sam because he realizes somehow that that's Billy Loomis's daughter. How does Amber get into the friend group? Does she purchase their house and just never invites anyone over and befriends Tara somehow? It must just be as easy as befriending Tara I mean, she
I
almost seems
guess.
like she has like a weird, not weird, but it seems like she has like an obsessive, like borderlining like a lesbian love for Tara at points.
I'm not gonna lie, when I first watched it, when Tara and Amber were texting each other in the beginning when Tara was trying to get her to come over, I was like, oh, they're probably, dating. And then just kind of seeing how like how close that Amber would stand next to Tara, like she was like always kind of hovering over her. Even when Sam came back, like she didn't really want to leave Tara's side until she said, you know what, let's give them some space or give Tara some space. So yeah, I picked up on that too. I felt the same way about that.
Yeah, and I like how just sick and manipulative these two are. Like Jack Quaid in the basement when Sam has the knife to him and he's like he's really selling it. Like when you were talking about Rory Culkin's character being a bad actor in Scream 4, I was like fucking Richie is a good actor, like having his hands up and he's like I think it could be your sisters. You two have been estranged for like a very long time. And it seems like he kind of actually convinces her to a point. I was believing Jack Quaid's character. He was really every time this movie was like so obvious about him being the killer, I was like, he can't be the killer. Not him. No. But yeah, when when he's revealed to be the killer, it's like go Amber and what's it called? Sidney are wrestling at the top of the staircase and they end up falling over and Jack Quaid is going for Sidney's gun that she dropped and Sam ends up getting it first. He goes up to her, he's like, "Baby, I'm so glad you're alive," and then stabs her, takes the gun, and he's like, "'Cause I wanted to be the one to kill you." And he drops a line, and it felt like he was talking to me when he dropped that line, but he's like, "I know, bummer it's me." And I was like, "It is a bummer, Jack Quaid. You're right. I wanted expected more from you, man. I thought you were a boy. You're a real boy."
Yeah, he when he was revealed, I was like, son of a bitch. So it was fine. It was the love interest. And I love that he actually said, Dewey was like spot on. Like he
Yeah,
automatically knew not to fucking trust me. But
that's
yeah,
a good
and then
touch.
yeah,
He's like, "But
definitely.
do I have to take this from shitty Sam Elliott?" He drops lines like that in such a way where you're like, "It's not Jack Quaid."
I like, when he flips his switch and he you could see he's fucking like he's psychotic. But when Amber flips her switch, she's just fucking like demented and it's weird. Like I forgot where I heard it from. Someone was trying to compare her little breakdown here to like how like flipped out Stu was in the first one. You can't compare the two, like, and I think that's just because I'm super biased towards Matthew Lillard, but also I don't like her, you know, I don't like her performance here. Like, it's nothing against her. I haven't seen her in anything else. I'm trying not to be like, oh, I don't like the actor or actress because it could just be, what they were given or just, the character itself. But no, I don't like, her portrayal of like being a serial killer. She just I don't know. It just looks very like juvenile.
I would call her obnoxious, and I kind of liked how loud and obnoxious she was. She's doing a little bit. I would say she's doing her Once Upon a Time in Hollywood performance, but a little toned down, I would say. Because in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, she's like, "Wait, man, we gotta. That's Rick Dalton, man. We go in there and we kill him, man." And it's like because
Oh my god.
it's 69, so she's like a hippie chick on a bunch of psychedelics. But
Okay.
I mean, I'll send you that clip if you don't want to watch the whole movie. It's a Tarantino movie though, if you're into Tarantino.
Nice.
But her performance in that is very reminiscent of this. So I was digging it. I'm a big fan of her, but she does have a very loud, quality to her that I can see being off-putting.
Yeah, obnoxious was a better word that I couldn't think of. But yeah, there was even a part where she was just like, "Eatin', eatin'," like trying to make a little like knife stabbing sound effect. And it's like, please stop. Like, we already know you're the killer. You're fucking crazy. You just like doing that is just, it's too much. You're being very,
I
very
loved
extra.
it.
Oh, I hated that
I liked
part.
it a lot. It was
No.
very like just very twisted, especially too when she's in the kitchen with Sidney and Gail and they've got her like cornered. I love that they smash hand sanitizer on her face and she's like, hand
Yeah.
sanitizer? Like she can't believe it. And I didn't
Yeah.
realize that was a good setup. I didn't realize that was going to come into play a little later. But then she's like, wait, don't just don't kill me, please. I was radicalized by the message boards. And oh man, she's just trying to wait for them to get close enough, and then she like takes a shot at Dewey, uh,
Oh,
squeezes
man.
Gale right where she shot her. You didn't like that shot at Dewey?
Hell no. I was like, how the fuck are you gonna say that? Like, oh my god, I was so pissed off at that point. Like, another reason for me not to like this character because it's like, one, you killed Dewey. Now you're just fucking like, just like, what is it? I can't think of this one
Rubbing salt in the
analogy.
wound.
Yeah, that was exactly what I was trying to say. So I hated that
I
part.
mean, I feel like you're not supposed to like her the most out of all these because Richie, I think by the end is still supposed to be a likable character, but I think the movie wants you to fully hate Amber at this point. That's why they light her on fire. And do you care if I spoil what happens in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood?
That's fine.
All right, so spoilers for Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. I'm pretty sure they light her on fire in that movie too. I want to say Leonardo DiCaprio takes a flamethrower to her. I think she's the one who gets lit on fire after being fucking brutally beaten up by Brad Pitt and attacked by a dog. They like really fuck her up in that one. When she got lit on fire, I'm like, that's kind of reminiscent of Once Upon a Time in Hollywood a little bit. Yeah, that's her
Yeah.
fate though. What do you think about Richie's fate? How they did him in?
Remind me again how his death played out because I was more so just focused on her and I'm a little fuzzy on his death right now.
Okay, so his death kind of annoyed me a little bit. Not the death fully, but the things surrounding his death. So, uh, I want to say he's on top of Sam, and Sam's looking in the reflection at Billy
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Loomis, and he's like, "Over there, there's the knife." And I was like, "How the
Yeah.
fuck?" I thought these were visions. So now he's supernatural. He's able to like notice things that Sam doesn't notice in the real world. I didn't understand the rules fully of Billy Loomis, but I was like, "Okay, you're hinging it on this." I was able to forgive it though. Small nitpick, but she gets the knife and stabs him through the cheek. It's really fucking upsetting. And then goes full Billy Loomis and is just, it reminded me of Zodiac actually. I don't know if you've seen that movie. Jake Gyllenhaal, Robert Downey Jr. The Zodiac killer brutally murders people on this beach in broad daylight, and her stabbing him felt very reminiscent of that. And then he stops and it's like, wait, what about my ending? And then I don't know if she says fuck your ending or something, but then she's like, here's your ending, and slits his throat and he bleeds out.
Yeah, now I remember it. So I don't like how a lot of the films they have something like that. You know, in the first one, you have Billy and Stu basically saying, okay, this is how our ending is going to be. They explain it, and that's pretty much it. But like in the other films, you have them really focusing on something like, oh, this was my movie. Because, like, in the third one, Roman, he's a director, and then there's a part where Sidney stabs him, and he's like, our mom's dead, and, I still got to make my movie. And then with part four, you have Jill and Charlie as the killers, and, they're just more so Charlie and his friend, they were more so just like, yeah, everyone's going to be filming everything. This is like, we're making the movie here. And now in here, he's like, well, what about my ending? It's like, all right, can you just like stop with those little like movie reference one liners? I don't know. I think it's just like it's overplayed at this point. But yeah, when Sam does say to him like, "Oh, never fuck with the daughter of a serial killer," and then yeah, she just like starts stabbing him repeatedly too after like stabbing him in the cheek. It's like just because your dad was Billy Loomis doesn't necessarily mean you have that in you to do it. Like, you were just
Yeah.
attacked after, yeah, you were just attacked after your sister was attacked and a bunch of your friends were attacked. So instead of being the flight and the fight or flight, you have fight in you and you just, go, you lose it at that point and you stab him to death just to make sure he's really dead. So they could have gone without that line, and her just stabbing him repeatedly would have been, a little smoother for me. But, that's just my opinion on it.
Yeah, I can see that. And I get how you feel about Richie's line delivery too. It hammered home the theme a little bit too much. But at the end of the day, I do really enjoy their motivation. And it goes back to what we were describing with Mindy's character, the toxic fandom, the people who are like, they ruined my thing. How could they do this? And they're taking that feeling to the furthest extreme to where they're like, well, you let the fans make the movies now. The fans get to do it. So they're just like, we know they make this shit into movies, so we're going to make the best sequel since the original, which in a sense is just doing what the original did, which speaks to this like weird, like fandom of people who are like, we don't want any changes, just give us the same thing, just give us the same thing, don't do anything different, and I really did appreciate that motivation. Felt fresh, and it felt very different from the Sidney family thing that they kept doing, even though they really felt the need to do the Billy Loomis family thing.
That just reminded me. So I know we've touched upon this before. I just don't remember what episode. So I was one of those fans who was like, I want everything the same if they're going to remake a movie. And if it wasn't the same, like, I wasn't really happy. But that was my mentality growing up. I was still a kid, a teenager, whatever. Now, as an adult and hearing and watching all these reviews, and people are saying, like, if you're going to try to remake a movie, at least be creative with it and add your own spin to it. Don't like repeat it beat for beat, because then what the fuck are we watching? And it's like that makes so much sense to me now, because yeah, you should like give yourself a chance to shine. You already have the rights to remake this once upon a time classic, so why not add your own spice of creativity in there? But yeah, unfortunately, there are going to be the people that are like, no, we don't want anything to change. We want everything to be the exact same. But it's like, I would hate when I would watch a movie and basically see like this great example. You see Stab in there, and you're like, the person, they're wearing the same exact outfit as the character in the movie Scream in the Stab film. And it just looks stupid when they're playing out the scene exactly how it was played out for the film that we're watching. So it's like, all right, if that bothers me, that has to bother other people. So people should just fucking, I wish people would chill on the fact when things are different in movies.
Yeah, and that is a good takeaway too. If this bothers me, I'm probably not the only one, but yeah, it is. I mean, that is pretty cool of you to admit, like, have that you have had like a change of heart or change of mentality. I used to be very adverse to remakes too, but now I'm at a point where if it doesn't seem like a cash grab and somebody's got to take, some of some pretty iconic movies are remakes. The Thing is a remake. Invasion of the Body Snatchers, the more iconic 70s one, is a remake. Sorcerer is a remake of Wages of Fear, I want to say. Star Wars is an amalgamation of a bunch of different things. It's kind of a ripoff of Dune. We've seen two iterations of Dune. One person had their own artistic attempt at it, another person tried to stay close to the book. I mean, it helps to be open at the very least to people taking swings and trying to do something different.
Yeah, and it's like that's part of being in that type of industry. Like if you want to be creative, like someone is going to have an opinion on it, and Cody Leach says it best, opinions are like assholes, but that doesn't mean you have to be. So it's like you feel bad when people, they're essentially being vulnerable because they're putting something like a little piece of their soul into their artwork, whether it's music, films, anything creative,
Podcasting.
podcasting. Exactly. um and then someone just turns around and is like, oh, I don't like that, this, or like that's this shit is stupid. And it's like, damn, that was something that someone like, lost sleep over. Like they put like their heart and soul into this, and a bunch of people could like it, but you have that one person who just wants to like be that asshole and like make his negative or her negative opinion known. It's like, dude, it's okay if you don't like it, but you don't have to be a dick about it.
Very beautifully stated, Mercedes, and I completely echo what you said there. You can have a negative opinion, but you don't gotta go and fucking yell your negative opinion at the people who made the thing. It's okay. They don't need to know how you feel. And maybe other people don't always need to know everything that's on your mind. it, yeah, but that goes hand in hand with social media and a lot of the radicalization that's in this movie. But yeah, we can wrap this thing up a little bit. Dewey gets a nice little send off with Gail at the end that I really enjoyed. It got me pretty emotional. It came a little bit before the Four West, so I was already in a pretty emotional state of mind when that came up. But she was like, I'm going to write another book, and it's not going to be about this. I'm not going to give these guys the attention. I'm going to write a story about a good man from Woodsboro or something like that. And I was just like, that's very beautiful. I'm getting chills thinking about it.
Yeah, I like that. His appearance in here was brief, but I love the fact that we had Dewey. You see, like, he was in a broken state in his life, but he pulled it together and was able to, go out not necessarily with a bang, but he went out and he was doing what he was trying to do best, just protect everybody. And then yeah, you have Gail trying to, find a way to honor him as well. So like it felt good knowing like, okay, yeah, they're not together anymore. They are divorced pretty much. At least that's what I'm thinking they are. But she still loves him. Like they had a little connection when they finally came back together. She was trying to say like, I think he had called himself like a coward or something, but she tried to say like, you're many things, but you are not a coward. So it's like they still had love for each other clearly. So I like that she
Yeah,
said that at the end too.
I do too. They didn't have a lot of screen time together, but the time they did have together felt very real. No one was really to blame in why it didn't work out. It just, she wasn't cut out for Woodsboro and he wasn't cut out for New York.
Yeah. And you find out that Chad's alive, Mindy's alive, Jenna's alive. Like all the important main characters that they just introduced are alive. Sam gets into the ambulance with Tara, and they kind of recreate the ending scene from Scream 1 where you have like the bird's eye view or the crane view of the house and like all the news reporters. Someone kind of talking in Gail's place. And then you have the ending title where it says for Wes at the end. So great way to end the film.
Yeah, very touching, very beautiful. I enjoyed how it all wrapped up.
Yeah. So what any final thoughts from you on the film itself?
No, I think we covered everything. Great send off to Wes. It seemed like everybody's hearts were in the right place with making this movie. And yeah, I'm excited for Scream 6. I'm going to be going in completely blind. This is going to be a bittersweet ending to this series. I've enjoyed how it's been going, and I almost wish it was leading right into Scream 7 like the 28 movies. But who knows when Scream 7 is coming out. We couldn't wait that long, and yeah, I had a lot of fun with this one.
You're definitely gonna like the intro of part 6. I already know that. I fucking love the intro. So, and it's funny because when I watched it, there was a big detail that I didn't know about. So, after, watching some other films and then watching this again, I was like, no shit. So, you're gonna enjoy it. Yeah, but part 5, it's one of my favorites within this franchise. I'll say again. I love Jenna Ortega. I love Melissa Barrera in here too. I didn't see her in much of anything, but I love her performance in here as well. I was nervous the first time watching it just because I didn't know who they were going to bring on as the new main characters, and if they were going to, you know, hold up to the legacy characters, but they held their own. They did such a great job in here. And yeah, I'm just ready to cover the next one now with you cuz I'm excited for you to watch it.
I know it. I've been so eager. I've been. It's been hard not to watch ahead, and it feels nice knowing that I'm not gonna have that that stress anymore. I I'm fucking excited to come back next week to do this all over again with you, and I hope the listeners are excited too, because this is, I think, been our strongest run of episodes so far. I have really been having a lot of fun when it comes to the movies and the conversation with you. So I'm ready to wrap this all up next week and get our rankings out there too.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. Like today, this episode was needed. I feel like this week
Yeah.
was rough for everybody. We lost Ozzy Osbourne and Hulk Hogan. So,
Oh
you
yeah.
know, yeah, so that's definitely hitting a lot of people. And I feel like a lot of our fans can feel that impact too. So, being able to come on here, just kind of like detach from the world and talk about a cool movie with you in a cool franchise on everyone's favorite horror movie podcast, it's a really good way just to wind down and end the day. So I thank you for that, Nicholas.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I mean, thank you too for fucking always being here like every week to do this. It's very therapeutic. I've had kind of a rough day too. I've had some health issues going on this week. And yeah, rest in peace, Ozzy Osbourne, too. NIB was the first song I learned on bass, not the bass solo, but like Ozzy Osbourne, his music's been in my life since I was very young. And yeah, that is a hard loss. But I mean, just like Scream 5 serves as a send off for Wes Craven, this will serve as a send off to Ozzy Osbourne. Rest
Yeah,
in
it's
peace, Ozzy. Rest in peace, Wes Craven. Two masters at what they did.
and rest in peace, Hulk Hogan.
Yes, I
Hulkamania.
forgot about Hulk Hogan. Hulk Hogan wasn't in my life as much as the other two.
I mean, he wasn't too much in my life either. I just
Yeah,
remember seeing him in Rocky Balboa, and I know my brother loved him growing up
yeah.
too. So it was still a surprise. But yeah, rest in peace to all three of these legends. And yeah, let's just keep on trucking. Don't forget to rate us 5 stars and comment on our Instagram. Like, if you guys want like a little shout out, like we could start doing like fun little shout outs to you guys. We are Morbid _ Curiosities _ PD. Yeah, just come on by, say hi, let us know if you want us to cover any other films. We already got a couple suggestions, so yeah, just stay tuned, guys.
Hell yeah. What she said. We've been Morbid Curiosities.
Woo!